Good evening, Prescott Valley. Welcome to the March 14th, 2017 regular Parks and Rec Commission meeting. Kathy, can we have a roll call?
Chairperson Frere.
Here.
Commissioner Brinkman.
Here.
Commissioner Fallman.
Here.
Commissioner Polkin.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, if everybody's had a chance to look at the agenda, offer any suggestions for a change. Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Moving on to number 4, approval of the minutes. First approval we need is if everybody's had a chance to review the February 14th, 2017 regular meeting minutes. Offer any changes?
They look good to me. I'll make a motion to approve the February 14th, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
And a second?
I will. Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the February 25th, 2017 work study meeting minutes from our park tour, our annual park tour. Any chance to review it or offer any suggestions for changes? Hearing none.
I think those were just outstanding work study minutes, not as loving as the 14th, but I'll make a motion to approve the February 25th, 2017 work study meeting minutes.
I'll second that motion.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the March 6th work study meeting minutes. Any suggestions? Are they loving enough?
Well, the March 6th were absolutely outstanding as well. So I'll make a motion to approve the March 6th, 2017 work study meeting minutes.
And a second.
I'll second that motion.
And in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Made quick work of that. Moving on to announcements. Start with the Youth Arts Month.
Good evening, Commissioners. Believe it or not, 14 years we have celebrated Youth Arts Month here in the town of Prescott Valley, and we will continue to do so throughout the month of March, all the way through the 30th, on the 1st through 4th floors of the Civic Center here at Town Hall. We are fully decorated with all types of 2- and 3-dimensional artwork brought to us from the art educators throughout our public and charter school systems and the fabulous students that have created them under their tutelage. We're very fortunate to have them displaying all month long here with us. There's been some very fabulous work on display and some very fun and exciting comments of support that have come through a variety of not only town staff members but also the general public that are in there for a variety of meetings, business functions, you name it. So we're very, very happy that we had that. March 1st, we had a awards ceremony and celebration for our young people and those teachers. We had nearly 200 folks in attendance on that particular evening. We had a number of different dignitaries that were there with us, principals, assistant superintendents, town administrators, all the kind. And we're very thankful to have them there. Some other talents of our young people in our community. We had the JTED Culinary School students that were assisting us that evening. And it was a fabulous, fun event. 4 of our teachers were awarded with $100 stipends for art supplies for their classroom. Ribbons, first through honorable mention, were handed out, and lots of big smiles and celebrations through the evening for not only the students but their families as well too. So if you haven't been out to visit with us, please do so before March 30th, and you'll be able to enjoy the artwork that abounds throughout the Civic Center here at Town Hall.
I just want to say, viewing some of the artwork while coming for our last work study meeting, very impressed with the work of some of these young students and the talent that's out in the community. It's really impressive to see, especially speaking from a guy that has no artistic talent at all. So, but it's very impressive, and I encourage all the citizens to stop by and check it out and support the kids and their dreams there. It's really neat.
Most definitely. Thank you for those comments. I agree wholeheartedly. Coming up Saturday, April 8th is the 14th Annual Family Arts Festival in Extravaganza. This will be held at the Prescott Valley Civic Center grounds located at 7501 East Civic Circle. The activities will begin at 9 a.m., continuing all the way through until noon for the egg hunt, in which we'll have separated into 3 separate age groups. But please plan to join us. Free parking, free admission. Lots of stage entertainment, 3 hours worth of stage entertainment will be available that day, again celebrating the performing art talent of our young people here in the community. In doing so, wristbands will be for sale for the jumpy attractions that will be on site. There's a free petting zoo. Little Bo Peep, along with her sheep, will be joining us out there, as well as the bunny himself. So plan your day, Saturday, April 8th from 9 a.m. until noon, with roughly noon, 12:30 kickoff for the egg celebration. And I invite all the commissioners. We could definitely use your help during that event for the distribution and set up for those preparations. So if you would add that to your calendar and plan to join us again for the 14th Annual Family Arts Festival and Extravaganza.
Well, we hope the weather doesn't lay an egg for the extravaganza, but it's pretty amazing when you get out there and see the young kids come up to the bunny. It's just, if you watch the expression on their face, it's like magic. So I hope everybody comes out. I assume we're going to have a large number of eggs this year?
Yes, sir.
Great. So everybody come out and join us. It's a lot of fun.
No problem. And if Mother Nature decides she wants to play a factor, we're going to hop right to it for you, sir. So
Oh, excellent.
have no fears. Also, for your another calendar item upcoming will be Friday, April 28th. This will be our annual Arbor Day celebration. We'll be gathering at George Anderson Park off of Superstition Drive. We'll kick things off at 10 o'clock on that particular day. All ages are welcome. This is an entirely free event. We have 500 baby trees, also known as saplings, scheduled to arrive a couple of days before in preparation for the event. So if you have need for a beautiful blue spruce conifer to adorn your yard, boy, this is rough. After all this laying eggs and hopping around thing, I'm challenged here, Ron. Thank you very much for that. But join with us. We'll have the trees available to you for all that are in attendance. If you need more information, feel free to give us a call at the office at 759-3090. Again, 10 a.m. to noon on Friday, April 28th. For those that are also in attendance, traditionally we've been able to feed them for all of their hard work as they're joining us in planting of the trees. Compliments of Kaler Landscape and Prescott Valley Growers Nursery. And so we'll have some work out there to complete, lots of good fun, education, entertainment, and some grub to go along with it as well.
Will we have a school participating?
Yes, as of right now, indications are that Acorn Montessori Charter School will be joining us. And so we're looking forward to their attendance and sharing these opportunities with them.
I'm glad you picked this park to get some new trees. I think it really needs a little
Yes, ma'am.
upgrading. Yeah, good.
Great.
Any questions on Arbor Day? Okay. If not, I'd like to remind all of those out there in listener land that Mountain Valley Splash is hiring. We have pay starting at $10.50 an hour. We're looking for lifeguards and office staff to join us. All applications can be completed online at pvaz.net under the Jobs tab, and open interviews are scheduled for March 31st and April 1st. Those that have questions can give us a buzz at 759-3001, and that's in our HR department.
Good.
Okay.
Looking forward to a great aquatics season coming up. Okay. Moving on. Department update. Brian, do you have anything?
At this time, I do not have anything further to add to my report, but I am happy to answer any questions you might have about my personal report or the department's report as a whole.
Seeing none. Move on to the chairperson's report. Just real quick, another calendar item for a reminder for all the commissioners. March 23rd at 4 p.m. will be the ribbon cutting for Bob Edwards Park down on Long Look. just north of the Civic Center here, so please mark your calendars for that. It's kind of been a soft opening. The park's very busy today, especially with this warm weather. But the official ribbon cutting will be, once again, March 23rd at 4 p.m. And another item, just an update. The grant application has been submitted for the Arizona Community Foundation with hopes of being awarded enough to build a footbridge at Fane Park to cross Lynx Creek to access the trail system south of the lake. That would create great all-weather access to that side of the park, and people can explore the new and existing trails that are over there. So keep our fingers crossed, and we'll keep updated with the status of that as we move along.
Most definitely. And just for the Commission's information, the importance of that is being signified simply in an event that's actually scheduled for this weekend. There's a group that's going to be having a tour scheduled of Fane Park and some amenities on the backside, and that is their access point. And as of right now, it's still in question based upon the stream or the creek, Lynx Creek, flowing into the lake right now. And if that flow rate's still what it is, they are anticipating cancellation of that at least until April, just giving it time to subside. So there are needs, and that's exactly why the grant was issued, in hopes that we could move forward with that.
Absolutely, and I know with all the weather we've had this year, Lynx Creek further upstream, I saw it over the weekend, and it is flowing rather well still, so which is good to see. But
Yeah.
will be nice if we could get to that side of the lake. Item 7, Tree Advisory Board business. I have nothing new, unless anybody has any questions or comments regarding
And unfortunately, staff has nothing new to add either, simply because we've not received that feedback as it relates to our Tree Seed USA application, nor the Growth Award application. So.
Very good. Okay, now to old business. Daddy-daughter date night report.
Thank you, Commissioners. We had Daddy-Daughter Date Night event this year on February 17th, and it was held at La Quinta Inn and Suites this year, whose generous donation of space made it possible for us to accommodate almost twice as many people as we have in years past. So
Great.
we really appreciate La Quinta for helping us out with that. We had 65 couples attend the event this year, as well as 16 additional daughters. And that was a total of 146 people that came to this event. So compared to the 35 couples that we've done in the past, it was really wonderful to be able to have that many people in attendance. We had 4 generous volunteers who were able to help us out during the event this year. And they put in a total of 16 hours of time. So between them to help us set up, they took photographs, they did greeting and helped sign in guests as well. And they also helped us to take down the decorations at the end of the night. So thank you to Danny, Olga, and then Joe and Ann, who were our photographers for the evening, for all of their hard work for this event. It really made the event something special to be able to have everyone there, especially with the additional guests there. And in addition to La Quinta and our volunteers, we had a number of local businesses step up to help us with donations for the Daddy-Daughter Date Night event. And thanks to all of our sponsors, we were able to give a prize bag to each girl that attended the event, as well as several of the fathers that attended the event. And I was there when the fathers won. They had to do some pretty rad air guitar to get there. It was awesome. So thank you goes out to Antelope Lanes, Blue Hills Cafe, Culver's, Frozen Franny's, Fox and Bear Kids Trading Post, Jars of Clay, Laser Gifts in Prescott, Little Caesars of Prescott Valley, Olive Garden, Peter Piper Pizza, Robex, Sports Clips, and Truly Nolan. And then we have to give a special thanks out to our DJ, Chris Husey, and Amerigas in Prescott, who was the sponsor for our DJ this year. Chris made sure that the evening was fun and lively for all of the young ladies and their dads that attended. Like I said, he was the one that did the air guitar contest, so we have him to thank for that. That everyone had a really wonderful time. He kept everybody moving and dancing, and it was a really great time thanks to Chris's efforts. So thank you again to Chris and AmeriGas and Prescott for the generous donation of his time and AmeriGas for sponsoring him. So we hope to see everyone again next year for the event. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great report, and great to see all the businesses involved in making that happen.
Yeah, and it shows the importance of the partnerships the community and the community businesses have with the town. I mean, you had quite a list of sponsors and co-sponsors, and this is probably the largest daddy-daughter date night we've ever had, and it's pretty impressive. So thank you to all those people that made contributions and donations. Thank you to the volunteers. That's what makes it work.
Okay, moving on to the ice skating end of season report. Mr. Brady Peck.
We had a wonderful season that wrapped up a month ago on February 12th. Here we have a comparison of the last 3 years of our skating numbers. Our skating hours increased over the last 2 years. We were able to utilize some hours as evening skates that was requested by the community, and those were very successful. Our participation numbers increased in the 13 and up category, with a slight decrease in the 12 and under category. We did see more kids coming in after school especially for our Wednesday jersey themed skate, with the early release from the high schools. Skate rentals, we saw that decrease some as people start buying their own skates and doing that, and which in turn we see our skate sharpenings increase. So we had a great, wonderful season, and it was awesome to see. It was about 14,000. No, I'm looking at wrong numbers. Just over 8,000 that we had come through the doors for skating this year.
Great. Once again, another great opportunity for people to get up off the couch and get moving, and I know the kids really enjoy it, so thanks for putting all the effort, and thank your staff for that as well.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to having it again this fall.
It looks like you put a really fantastic season on ice, and we see those numbers. I know, stop that man. But we see these numbers going up every year. But this is a big event for the town and for the people in Prescott Valley, so it sounds like we've done a really good job. Thank you, Brady.
Thank you, absolutely, and we'd like to thank the Prescott Valley Event Center for partnering with us to make sure that we do have these ice times still available to us.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have the town trail and MUP inventory from one of our wonderful volunteers, Mr. Paul Rowland.
Is this the right one, Paul? It's the 013, because it bounced somewhere. Is it that one? Yeah. You know how to do this better than I do, so. I'm not going to touch it. We had another guest planning to be in attendance with us tonight, and that was Miss Kim Moon, our former, unfortunately, capital asset coordinator. She still may arrive. She's traveling to be here with us tonight. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Paul. Paul came to us as a volunteer, oh my goodness, about a year ago. And he's been busy with this project primarily during his duration of time with us. Many miles underfoot. He had a little traveling buddy that went along with him, helping him through this asset study. And I can't thank Paul enough for all of this, because he's really helped develop a plan, connecting the dots, open some eyes, show some opportunities that can be investigated, and has really established a very strong baseline. So I will get out of Paul's way. I'm afraid that he's going to really expand my mindset here in teaching me all kinds of new skills, which scare me in a lot of ways. But I say that all out of jest because I'm very much looking forward to that. And with that being said, I'll be quiet because this lovely lady will be able to give us a lot more background and information in regards to the work that Paul was working on. And of course, Paul will share with us his studies. So, Ms. Kim, if you want to give us a little quick overview.
Welcome.
Thank you. Just walk in.
A little quick overview. Yes, she's been traveling hard in regards to the work that you and Paul originally set out. And Paul grabbed a hold of it and ran with it. So we're just starting with all this.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Kim Moon. I was in traffic in Phoenix not too long ago. I apologize for being late.
No.
Joy of living in the valley now. I wanted to be here for this. This is important to me, and Paul's done a good job. I did not know this volunteer project when it started out could be something this grand and of this high quality, and I hope you enjoy this. I hope you take it very seriously. A lot of research has been put into this, and it's just really amazing. So with that, actually, I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the work that I've been doing this past year looking at the trails in Prescott Valley. When I first came to Prescott Valley, I actually had to live over in Prescott for a little while for my sins, I guess. And my first encounter with a trail in Prescott Valley was coming over from the Peavine Trail and picking up the Iron King Trail. And that was kind of the gateway to Prescott Valley trails for me in so many ways. But as I got here, I got more and more interested in where are the trails, what kinds of trails do we have, what do they take us to, and all of those kinds of issues. And then when I came in to volunteer at the town, I was sent up to meet with Kim, and she was looking at these different asset management studies to find out, what do we really have here in the town, what condition is it in, and so forth, and documenting it so that we'd have records of everything. The first thing she pointed me to, and I don't know if she remembers this, were storm drains, and I kind of rolled my eyes, and then she said trails, and I said yes, because I've got a passion for trails. I love walking trails. I mean, I've been out with Pat helping build some of the trails here, and I'm looking forward to more of that. But the first step was, of course, to figure out what is it that we want to do in this study. And it really was to determine the status and the extent of the town's trails. This map that you see is the map that if you go onto the town website, this will pop up as the maps of the trails. And this was one of my first looks at the trails of the town was, wow, look at all those trails. And then I found out, well, a lot of those are proposed trails, and some of them are what are called street paths, which are really sidewalks, and so on. And so then it was a matter of figuring out, okay, so what are we really going to look at here when we talk about trails? But we really wanted to find out, what do we have, what's the extent of it, and also a little bit about the condition of it. So the process was to first figure out what trails do we have, what are we going to call a trail, and what do we have, what are the attributes that we want to record about the trails. And there were two places we looked there. One was the National Recreation Parks Association database. They have a huge database of trails all around the country. And so we wanted to make sure that we put data in that could be then uploaded into the national database so that Prescott Valley could be part of that national database. In addition to that, then we looked at what do trail guides typically include in them, so we put in additional fields that we thought would be useful from the viewpoint of users, as well as some fields that we thought might be useful from the viewpoint of town staff in terms of maintenance issues and maintaining things. We added things like ownership, so that we could know if there were ever a liability issue, was it clear that the town owned the property, and things like that. So after we kind of got the charts together, and I went out and started walking trails. That was the best part of the job, actually.
Great job.
Well, I won't say that. It was, though, in many ways. So it was about 75 miles of walking, actually probably closer to 100 because a lot of them I had to do a couple more times just to check things on or get some more photos or get out when there was a sunny day. Sometimes you have to do that. Then after I had collected information about all the trails, and as I was doing that, I put together a whole booklet of trail descriptions. I mean, just for each trail, a map of it, photos of it, and then some of the descriptions. And it's about 75 pages long, so I didn't make copies of that for all of you, but if you want them, I can provide them. But after we got out there and started doing that, it became clear that this was going to be a lot of stuff. And after I came back and started the first pass at trying to figure out the ownership, I realized it's not just going to be walking around, is it, and taking pictures. It's going to be a lot of digging through records. So I did spend quite a bit of the fall and winter digging through some of the records. When we started the project and I was looking at that big map, it was kind of like, well, I'm not going to look at the stuff that hasn't been done because I don't even know what the chances of that happening are, where it's going to go, if it's even worth looking at. So I said, let's just look. And Kim said, look at what's there. Just look at what's there. And so then it was, okay, now of the things that are on the map that are existing, what are we going to include in the trails? And we decided, partly because there's so many of them, to take out sidewalks and not include sidewalks. There's some reasons for that I think go beyond just how many there are, but in many ways, sidewalks have a different function than trails and multi-use pathways. We included multi-use pathways because they're developed for alternative transportation and recreation, and there's a lot of recreational use. In fact, I would argue for many of them in this town, they're used more for recreation than alternative transportation. So they're clearly a recreational asset of the town. And then we have what I called, and I kind of coined this in conversations with Kim one day, they're destination or recreation trails. I mean, they're places where you'd actually drive to go for a walk. Odd as that may seem to some people, but they're places that typically will have a trailhead. For example, Iron King, Glassford Hill. I mean, those are destination trails, and they are a different kind of asset than the multi-use pathways. Multi-use pathways tend to be used mostly by local people who live near that pathway. Most people don't drive to them, not trailheads, not parking, so forth. But the destination trails are ones that people not only in town go to, but people from out of town come here to go to those trails. Iron King Trail actually has a national reputation as one of the Rails to Trails nationally recognized trails that shows up on many websites out there. And Glassford Hill Summit Trail, the Summit Trail is now starting to show up on a lot more websites. The article that was in the Republic a few weeks ago brought more people coming up to it. So I think we're going to see a lot more use of these kind of destination trails. In addition, you've got all the trails at Fane Park, which I would call destination recreation trails that people go to. So those are how we kind of included things, and then we excluded all of the sidewalks, the 5-foot wide or smaller sidewalks. Here's what we found. There's about 38 miles of town-recognized trails in those two categories together. About 29 miles are concrete, asphalt, hard-surfaced. About 9 miles are dirt, native soil, some DG, but that's pretty much, most of it's native soil, actually, and some gravel. They range in length from very short ones, 1/10 of a mile, to 4 miles long, Iron King, for example. So there's quite a range of opportunities that are provided just in terms of the length of these. And their function, I think, is varied as their lengths. They're all over the town. One of the things that I wanted to come out of this project after I'd seen that first map was, let me just have a map of what really exists. And in the handouts that you did receive, at the back of the handouts, there is this map that's on the side, and it shows you where all the trails are that exist currently. But from the north end of town in Pronghorn Ranch to the south end in Stone Ridge, the east in Quailwood, to the west with Iron King and Summit Trail. I mean, basically, you can kind of frame the town with the ends of our trails. Some of them provide some great continuity east-west. Bison, the Central Core System, which includes the Lakeshore Trail that goes from Glassford Hill Road all the way over to, it's actually Serpentine to the east of Navajo. More than 2 miles long there. And then you've got, going north-south, you've got Antelope Meadows Trail north of Highway 89. Hopefully someday that will be connected then into the pipeline system that goes down to Lakeshore Drive. Hopefully, with about a block to go, we can connect Navajo to Lakeshore Drive and continue all the way down to 69. And if you hit 69 and run back out to the west, you can get onto the Stone Ridge Drive Trail and take that all the way down into Stone Ridge and around the mountain. So if you with just a few little connectors here and there, you can go all over the town on the trails that we've been looking at. They provide connectivity and access to all kinds of things. Schools are, of course, an important point, particularly with the multi-use pathways where we have children walking to school or bicycling to school. It's great access and a great safe route to schools. Many of our parks are connected by the trails. Shopping areas, recreation areas, work sites are connected as well as they come into the Central Core area. But then when you get to things like Fane Park, you've got historic and archaeological sites as well as Summit Trail. And then connections to natural areas that occur in a number of the trails around the town. So the one thing that I think is important about the trails here is that they provide impressive connectivity and access for people to get to different places and different kinds of places. I think trails are important for a lot of reasons, but these are some that I think we probably could share as important values for trails. Exercise, of course, walking, running, bicycling, see that all the time on all of our trails. But just outdoor enjoyment and relaxation. I ran into people a lot of times that were just out, just kind of hanging out on a trail because it was a nice place to get out and be outdoors. Health maintenance and improvement. I have to say one of the things that I credit trails with is saving my life. I mean, I had some health problems that I think probably I wouldn't have been able to resolve and be standing here before you today if I hadn't gotten out on trails. So I think they're critical for health maintenance and improvement. They're places for social interaction. I mean, I'd be out walking on strangers would come up to me all the time and just start chatting about it. You know, the first time I walked out on a trail was the Antelope Meadows Trail in Pronghorn Ranch, and a woman saw me. I had on my Prescott Valley hat and my volunteer tab, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I started talking about what I was doing. She said, "I love this trail. I run this every day. All winter long, all summer long, I'm out here." And it was that kind of interaction. I thought, hey, these things are really important to creating community here. They're safe routes for alternative transportation that I mentioned before, but they provide us access to some areas that we otherwise wouldn't get to. And the historic areas, the mining exhibits, the facilities up on the top of Summit, the heliograph, the natural areas. I mean, a hike up Iron King Trail takes you into some pretty incredible natural areas that I don't think a lot of people are even aware exist within Prescott Valley. They think, oh, that's over in that other town. But they also are destinations for not only our residents but visitors. And I think this is something that the town could take advantage of, is looking at how to promote the destination trails that we have to bring in visitors who, of course, would spend money and pay sales tax, which might be of value to us. And then they're great places for community events. You may recall when Summit Trail opened, there was the 5K run that was built around the trails. And I think there's more opportunities for those kinds of events, bicycle races, all kinds of possibilities I think that could be taking place in that. So I think, trails are an important asset. They're an important recreational asset, and that's why I think it's of value to spend a little time talking about them and thinking about what can be done. And so, although I wasn't really going out there to figure out what ought to happen in the future, I did, as I was walking, I'd get to the end of a trail and I'd think, if only this and if only that. And so I talked to Kim about it, and she said, let's talk about opportunities. So we did, and we looked at it, and in fact, Kim forwarded a bunch of those opportunities before she left as potential items for the future. But we can improve our connectivity, as I mentioned with a couple of those before. There's a number of places where one-block extensions can create amazing connections that allow us to go all over the town. I mean, getting on a bicycle up at the north end and going all the way to the south end and so forth. Another way to improve connectivity is designating some of our service roads. You'll recall that the first half almost of the Summit Trail is actually built on a surface. It is a service road that has now been designated as a trail. There are lots of those kinds of opportunities around the town where service roads, if they were designated as trails, could increase connectivity as well as the miles and people that we can serve. The other thing that I think we've noticed in some of the areas that are being developed is that the drainages could be put to dual use for the trail system. Lakeshore actually is a good example of a place where a drainage was also used for dual use for creating a multi-use pathway. So if you get out on where Lakeshore cuts behind the houses, cuts away from Lakeshore actually and goes up through the neighborhood to the west and to the east of Robert Road, it's following the drainage through that area. And in fact, that's why a lot of the property there was obtained, was primarily for the drainage, but it also provides a great opportunity as a dual use for a trail. I think that opens up another opportunity, and that is increasing the variety of the trails. We have a lot of multi-use pathways because funds were made available for alternative transportation. We have a small number of single-track trails, mostly the Fane trails. But if you look at some of these drainages, they might not be the ideal place to put a multi-use pathway, but they might be great areas to run single-track trails and increase the single-track trails in the area. And some of those drainages, I'm thinking of some over in Granville, for example, behind the high school and up through there, they're actually pretty good natural areas. You look at the bird life in there, and it's quite diverse. So there's great opportunities like that. And then finally, I think the biggest opportunity is probably to look at publicity in the future. How do we make people aware of the trails, the opportunities they have for using them? There's probably some signage issues that we have to deal with. We know it. At Fane, for example, we have a number of signage issues to deal with. And then I've talked a little bit with Brian about this, and that is more and more we're getting younger people going out onto trails. Pick up a map like this and carry it around. They're looking at their phone for a mobile app. And we need to look at how we can develop mobile apps for promoting the trails. So I think there's all kinds of opportunities in that direction. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Kim especially. She has given me the best volunteer opportunity a person could ask for. She has just, she's given me a job that was fun to do. She let me run with it. She gave me the support I needed when I needed to find out how do you figure out who owns a piece of property around here. But she gave me a lot of support and has just been a great person to have done this with. So I want to thank her. Thank Brian for the guidance that he's given me on National Parks and Recreation Association and what was needed to get them there. Pat, we've met before to talk a little bit about this. And the staff at the town hall have been wonderful in helping this go forward. The guys down in GIS have been great in helping me work through the mapping issues. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for me, and I hope this will be of some value to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's quite extensive what you undertook there, and we can't thank you enough. I mean, I think everybody here knows my passion for the trails is very similar to yours. same kind of stories. I feel like they transformed my life later in life. So thank you for bringing
Later in life?
Well, later in my life.
I don't think you've got to later in life yet.
But no, great work you've done. It just goes to show you what an engaged volunteer community can do and bring this to the forefront. And I think this is a good starting point. And I hope in my heart that you're willing to keep seeing it through and work with us a little bit to make things happen and make your visions come true, and then hopefully collaboratively with the commission and others in the community to make Prescott Valley a trail town, whether it's a path or a single track. So great work.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions I had while you were doing your presentation before you sneak away. Was there any counts on users?
I didn't do any counts on users, and actually a lot of my work was done in the mornings when it was probably not maximum use.
Okay.
It's not when I usually use the trails, actually, for personal use. Yeah. So we haven't done that. I think that's actually a piece, though, that might be worth investigating and looking at, particularly with some of the trails, the destination trails like Summit, as whether or not it might be even worthwhile to put in a counter. There's I know Prescott uses one on the Peavine Trail that's an electronic device for counting people walking through. It might be worth looking at some of these things, but it might be also worth having a volunteer do some of that kind of survey work. I think that is a hole in kind of what I looked at, is that I don't know how many. I know they're used. Yeah. I've got photos of them, but I don't know how many.
Yeah, and just my personal experience, it's great for me. I live in Pronghorn Ranch, and this past weekend I rode from Pronghorn Ranch all the way through to Stone Ridge to Old Black Canyon and connected over by Lynx Lake and came back on Iron King Peavine. It'd be great to be able to localize that kind of a bicycle ride within the town itself. And I think there's plenty of opportunity for that. And as far as dollar value, my opinion, and studies have proven that, the amount of investment that it takes to build a natural surface trail, single track, whatever you want to call it, the investment in time and town dollars is probably 3 to 1 in return. The town would get $3 just from visitors and people coming to town. So excellent work. I can't thank you enough. I'm so glad that you're involved with this, and hope we can continue working together.
Yeah, let me just say thank you very much for this, Paul and Kim. We have been talking on the commission for the last year or so about improving recreationals geared towards trails, bike paths, and facilities, and interconnection with other existing trails. The work you've done here is really a fantastic groundwork basis for expanding and moving on to that. I mean, this is something we have been very interested in, and we really haven't had a basis to work with. I'm really impressed. You did a lot of work. Now, I do a few miles in the morning up in Pronghorn on Antelope Meadows multi-use path, and it gets a lot of use. I mean, I'm out before sunrise, and there are people running. We have to watch the bikers, but there's just a lot of use. Yeah. And that's ones in town. I think a lot of people would like to see a lot more of the single-track trails, such as what we have in Fane Park that you guys just redid. That's a lot of people really love that. And this is really a fantastic basis. So thank you very much for this work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Wow.
Well, now that I have a big smile on my face, I guess we can move on to other business and have it removed. The fee policy update, Mr. Whitty.
Yes, sir. Get started back in here. Oh, no.
So yes, before we jump in that, if you couldn't tell, my hands were full, and I'm glad I left the fourth floor, because those two were thick as thieves for over a year through this process. And so, yes, it all goes back to these two in regards to that thanks for their efforts. Well, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Paul, we probably owe Paul at least 2 new pairs of shoes through the process. But Kim and her support, the connectivity that she made that transcended departments and the divisions within those departments, all of that good work out there. And Paul's fearful treks that was out there. So in doing that, can't say enough. So it'll be a huge asset in moving things forward. And I know we already have a few things identified in regards to connectivity and extensions already that we're going to be working on. So thank you very much, both of you. And thank you for being able to come up and join us, Kim. All right, and you're buying dinner tonight, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. So, in doing that. All right. As we have had several conversations over the last few months, it had come to pass. Oh, my apologies, ma'am.
Like to have this back? This is worth its weight in gold.
We've had several conversations over the past few months. We also had staff engaged with council on the commission's behalf in regards to seeking their interest in developing strategies. And all of these conversations have surrounded the item known as Prop 206. Prop 206 was a minimum wage item that was on the ballot. It was approved resoundingly by Arizona voters. In doing such, Prop 206 changes the minimum wage from roughly around $8 an hour. It changed January 1 so that all seasonal or part-time employees are making now $10 an hour. And then it progresses into 2018 with an additional 50 cents, 2019 an additional 50 cents, and then 2020 it makes the jump to the full $12 per hour. After that, the annual increase will be based upon a cost of living index. And also starting currently in 2007, there is an item in there in regards to time off, compensatory time, those kinds of things in which part-time or seasonal employee can also earn up to a maximum of 30 hours of paid time off. And so those are some of the items that surround Proposition 206. One of the largest elements for our department that comes into impact is our aquatics operation. And in rough calculations, we're seeing just in 2017, that impact will add up to nearly $26,000, $27,000. That's just in wages. That is not the time off or any of the other components surrounding that. So that's in addition to that number of the $26,000, $27,000. And that's coming in this current fiscal year. So we needed to do some strategies. Council said yes, very much. We need to look at this. Arizona voters wanted the change in part-time wages. And with that, as we have all experienced, if we've gone out and had dinner lately, we have seen that those costs have been passed on to the consumers in doing such. So we're seeing it in either meal costs or drink costs or a combination of both and doing those things while we're out enjoying ourselves. So this is definitely a consumer pass-along. And that's exactly what we're looking at in regards to our strategies in regards to how to do this. So as we began that process, engaging here with Commission, because Commission is the developer of those strategies of recommendation for Council's consideration, we wanted to look at a few things, and one of those elements we looked at some comparative rates, and we looked at those. As of right now, no one is really expressing what their strategies or path that they're taking. So this information is based as of December of 2016. We had one additional change that came from the Prescott YMCA that was in March, and these are the known rates that we're seeing in other communities. And we looked at those and we did some comparisons in regards to that. And that is marketplace analysis, if you will, in regards to how others are doing what they're doing. And then we looked at what business we have to take under consideration in our operations. So as of March 6th, the Commission sat down. We went through an analysis. We developed a spreadsheet. We entered quite a few different formulas, scenarios, processes. We looked at our total operation. We saw that the pool is operating from beginning at 7 a.m. with opportunities ranging all the way until 10 o'clock, just about every night of the week. Of doing that and providing service and the variety of different forms that it takes out at the pool, whether that be open recreational swim, lap swimming, aerobics activities, rentals, parties. There's a whole plethora of all kinds of good things. Swim lessons, because that's a very important thing to having our community safe out there. And we had to come up with those strategies, part of which is on an annual basis because of those increasing costs as it relates to the minimum wage increase that will take place each year. Also factoring in the time off, if you will, for lack of better terms, and then the additional costs that we know are going to be anticipated coming to us because of other service providers passing along those costs, and we're going to be one of the consumers that will receive those pass-along costs through consumables that we'll be working through. So we came up with a variety of different strategies. But in addition to that, part of our objective, again, not only in developing a plan of recommendation based upon fee structures, we also looked in regards to what goal do we need to hit? Not only do we have the dollar and cents kind of thing. And that was the important part of engaging with council. And council says, we're sustaining operations. That's what we're looking at. We're not subsidizing, and I know the Commission's very well aware of this, but the general public listening to this tonight may not. The town subsidizes the pool's operation by 60%, and that's been the case since fiscal year 12-13. That subsidy of the pool's operation is 60%. In other words, revenues that we're bringing in is paying for 40% of the bills. That's roughly in that neighborhood. Council said we want to sustain that. We don't want to diminish it. We don't want to subsidize it more. We don't want to also put more back on. But that's our appetite as it sits right now in doing those things. We also looked then at the balance. That balance was Commission as well as Council saying we need to cover our costs. We need to recoup our costs in regards to what the Proposition 206 is presenting itself with. So that is exactly what you're seeing in regards to the analysis strategies that are being presented to you tonight. It was a matter of our work study discussion that we had on the 6th. We fine-tuned things a little bit in doing such. And you are also seeing some other strategies in regards to our pricing structure. And that is reflected upon those certain line items, and those are highlighted for you in yellow in regards to the volumes that are sold. Examples are in passes. All of our individual passes are not very highly sought after. So that discussion took place, and the recommendation was we should be really considering the public is not showing value with those. So if there's no value, there should be no offering of those types of services. So we've extended that across over this trending that we have for you. We're also seeing the same thing in some of our admission rates, as well as we're also comparing back, as we saw earlier, in regards to market analysis and other service providers. That's part of their trending as well. So you see those recommendations in the removal of those two particular line items in admissions in doing that. We also looked at in regards to marketplace analysis on some of our line item strategies in regards to the services that we provide. How do we compare? One of those items that we discussed at great length was our swim lesson program. As of last summer, we were offering swim lessons at a fee of $25. And Brady, correct me if I'm wrong, that swim lesson program was a 5-hour program? 4-hour program versus our competitors were at a 3-hour program, because I know there was a 1-hour difference between the two. They were also charging $45 or more for an hour less of educational and skill development processes, as well as then also looking at it in regards to a cost factor. We have folks coming to us from many other communities because of the value that they're getting for us, not only in dollar value, but also in regards to the quality of service that they're getting from us. We have folks driving from as far as Flagstaff to be with us. They don't have to do that, but they're choosing to do that because of the value in regards to the development of the skill sets of their young people that they're investing here and entrusting us here in Prescott Valley, Mountain Valley Splash. So we took those items under consideration. When I say we, that was a matter of discussion and debate in regards to those work studies. So what we have created then is this spreadsheet of conversation that we had. And basically, again, the end goal was, A, recoup those seasonal costs, recoup that anticipated paid time off that we have, as well as then banking then also the anticipated costs of pass-along that we're going to get out of our consumable purchases. And ultimately that goal was somewhere right around that $6,000 to $8,000 variable on an annual basis. And so there was a lot of shifting in all of these different particular line items that we went through over the course of about an hour and a half, 2 hours that particular night, with many other discussions and analysts items preceding that particular night's discussion. And we found that we could devise a strategy that would ultimately get us to that goal and getting us through the next 4 years of that progress, or making that progress over the next 4 years and adhering to those goals, that achievement, and also adhering to the philosophy that the council has had in the past, and that was working to maintain a 40% recovery rate on expenses through revenues. And I think exactly what we went through the other night has achieved that, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you've been having to digest a lot of these different things, but I think what's being presented based upon your reviews, your comments, and your direction that you've given to staff for presenting to council is doing that specifically here in this chart that we're looking at here for the pool. There are several other items that we'll go through also in addition to this, but this being the main heart of the debate that we've had. So with that, I'll turn things over to you in regards to if you're seeing something, if there's anything more in addition to that as it relates specifically to the pool, and then we can transfer on in regards to those other items that we also discussed as a matter of the fee schedule and its review.
This looks exactly like what we discussed, and we had a very lengthy work study going over all these numbers. And first of all, thank you and Brady for putting together the spreadsheets that allowed us to crunch all these numbers in different ways and look at different scenarios. Since I've been on the commission has had the philosophy of keeping the fees as low as possible to serve all members of our community. And I think our usage numbers shows a lot of use. But with the changing times and the maintaining the 40% recovery, what you have proposed, what we went over, seems to work pretty perfectly for me.
I agree with what Ron said. You know, it sums up beautifully what we discussed in our work study meeting. You know, of course, nobody likes to raise prices on anything, but the fact of the matter is these costs are going to be passed on to all taxpayers in Prescott Valley if we don't do something and keep the 60-40 split with the town subsidy and the operational cost of the pool. So I think we've come up with a plan that might sting at first, but incrementally over the years to get us where we need to be will be slight and hopefully not too hard for the public to accept. That's my thoughts on that analysis there. You know, I think limiting the number of programs and passes that really weren't contributing and restructuring it into the fees is a wise business move as well. So thank you for your hard work and
no problem.
Keeping us informed on this pressing issue.
Very happy to help. And again, I think you all were spot on in regards to this alignment is just, it's an alignment. That's exactly what it is. We're not moving the bar up, 15 notches and, trying to drag more out other than what's been asked. And what's been asked is the adherence to a minimum wage increase. And that's exactly what we're looking at. We are not changing our program or levels of service. We're matching what the request was in doing that. And that was out of everyone's request.
Any further questions regarding comments?
Well, if the aquatics chart here looks good to you, we can just kind of delve a little bit deeper. Presented before you is in its entirety the fee use schedule. That is that stapled document. And you will see beyond then the aquatics changes, there are very few other items, but they are related somewhat to Prop 206. Some items are just simply elimination because we no longer and have not offered those service lines since the Commission's last review back in 2014 when we conducted this previously, and then just some updating elements in regards to that. The first one you'll see is on page 3 as it relates to the athletic field rentals in Category A for the sponsored organizations or co-sponsored organizations requesting that those that are provided with sponsorship or co-sponsorship shall be serving 50% or more of Prescott Valley residents in the utilization of athletic fields in the town. And then we move on in regards to the categories for usage rates. And we're looking at predominantly the categories of C for residents, non-residents, and for-profit or commercial groups. And you'll see in the variety of different columns, and the changes reflect to physical preparations that our staff has to make, and a large percentage of that are our seasonal employees that make those efforts out there under the supervision of our full-time folks. And that relates to field preps for baseball, soccer, as well as then also athletic tournaments that either are brought into town or are developed here locally in doing those things. So you see those adjustments, and for the most part on the resident and non-resident fees, they're nominal $5 increases on those hourly rates, and then the increases on the athletic tournaments in regards to those measured needs that we have there. Any questions?
Let me make just a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Under the Category A rental rates where we put in the 50%
yes, sir.
residents. As a town grows, we have a limited number of field, and we see pressure from other areas maybe coming to use our facilities. We have always been very interested in making sure that the fields and facilities in Prescott Valley are available to the residents. So in the future, we may have to look at raising that percentage.
Okay.
Just as a note, I think 50% is a good starting point, but if some of our fields are being used and it takes away opportunities from Prescott Valley residents, we may have to raise that.
Okay. Do you have a particular number in mind if 50 is not fitting the bill for you?
When I looked at this, I looked at other municipalities for education, and I see a great number of them use 70%.
Okay. All right.
Now, how that would shake up, I do not know, but if you look across the country, you're going to see a lot of places use 70%.
Okay.
Just to add to that, Ron, I know here locally with our Little League in particular, this is one just case, for instance, they actually require you to actually live within the city to be a part of the organization, so that would fit underneath that category if I'm not mistaken. If you live outside the region or outside the town of Prescott Valley, you have to meet certain requirements, I guess, if you would. That's for kind of fitting that gap. So
right.
I think they are self-sustained in that way, so I think an increase wouldn't be a dramatic shot in the foot, if you would, for that type of increase. I think it would be a easily achievable goal at 70%.
Right. Yes, and I'm somewhat familiar as a former parent and coach in that program, that Prescott or Little League has districting requirements, and maybe the ing wasn't the right word, but district requirements, and you have to live within that boundary. So baseball and softball are very well oriented in that way of having district residency requirements. And in this case, our community serves Prescott Valley, and then there's a little portion of Dewey, and then there are some cases where you can make waiver requests and go through that process. So I would say for a fair majority of our sponsored or co-sponsored groups that we do have now, it would be a simpler, or a very achievable,
yeah,
if not 100% compliance factor there in doing that type of thing. But it could definitely be one of those items of review, and if the commission would like to see that number accelerate from 50 to 70, we can make that partial recommendation to council, at least as a minimum of 50, with possible consideration towards a 70.
I think we should make the 50 and maybe we can look at the makeup of some of the organizations, and you have data right on the individual participants, so we can see how many are actually residents and give us a feel for that.
Right, and you are correct in that. In regards to the department is responsible for the field allocations, and so that would be part of it. And it has been an element of past years in regards to each organization submitting needs to be providing the previous year's registration roster, if you will, and for that validation in regards to clientele being served.
Just out of curiosity, Brian, how many teams or organizations outside of Prescott Valley utilize our fields, and where we need to turn the lights on, for example, as we discussed in our work study, too cold out, and they rented it for 3 or 4 hours. Lights are on after about an hour and a half, and that's just going to waste. Is that the exception to the rule, or is that more commonplace?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I can't really tell you common or not. It turns into a personal survey, if you will. After meetings such as this or other meetings that are out, I tend to go by whenever the lights are on, just surveying who's there, what's scheduled. And yes, you're spot on. I know Commissioner Gummer spoke a great deal on this particular subject during our work study of doing those things. And yes, there are times, no ifs, ands, or buts, in regards to organizations that have scheduled the time, have scheduled the lights, and have not been considered enough that when they're done to complete a simple task, and that is turning them off when they leave, especially when they're on for their purposes in doing those things.
So with the sponsored and co-sponsored, is there a large number that come from other communities into Prescott Valley?
As of right now, I would say that there's probably 25% of organizations that do not specifically come from Prescott Valley. What I'm not saying is there aren't Prescott Valleyans that are part of those organizations. So there are two elements of that conversation there. But yes, there are organizations that do come from other communities surrounding Prescott Valley utilizing properties. Some are sponsored, some are not.
But there's no liability for somebody to reserve a field and not show up. I mean, there's no cost in doing that. So
if you are a sponsored group, yes,
and letting them run, there's no reason for them to even consider it.
Right.
I mean, we end up paying the bill, but maybe down the road we need to have some kind of accountability, and I'm not quite sure what that'd be.
Sure.
To make sure that happens less.
Right.
Because I too have gone by fields and
Right.
The lights are on, but nobody's home.
And that is a two-party management responsibility. That is a department management responsibility of communication, and then self-management, self-policing of the organizations that are delivered that opportunity in doing such. And so those are going to be strengthening processes. They have to be for all parties and for everyone's benefit, i.e. when the lights are on and no one's home. That's not really a benefit, and the benefit would be is the courtesy in regards to turning things off when you're done.
We could also make note of which outfits are not being careful with their fields on our property. There can always be a penalty if we know that this has happened in the past or has happened numbers of times, have a penalty, or eventually say, no, you can't rent from us because you have not taken adequate care of the town's property.
Yes, ma'am. And you're speaking exactly to that element of that management responsibility.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. All righty. Thank you. All right. Now moving on, we're looking at Mountain Valley Splash. This is exactly as presented to you earlier in the slide that is currently up on the screen. What we have indicating out each of the next 4 years for those various different fees and charges. We have updated some of the definitions for clarity purposes as it relates to swimming lessons, and specifically in this case as it relates to discounts for additional immediate family members that are registering for those types of activities. So we've changed that phrasing there for 10 and 15% discounts. We have also shown the elimination of our junior lifeguard program that has not been in operation for several years. Again, under swim team, again, a clarity in regards to discount opportunities related to the swim team and immediate family members registering for the same program. Again, clearer definition in regards to facility rentals as it relates to guard services and doing such. And then end of school party opportunities of facility rentals in regards to the fact that it's the end of the year party for schools and that it's defined timeline for those parties. Any questions as it relates to Mountain Valley Splash Aquatic Center, either rates or definitions?
Yeah, under swim lessons, semi-private and private, they're listed for the next few years here up to 2020. And they seem relatively low in comparison to, or I saw it in the previous Excel sheet it was absent or without. Just wondering if that was an omission or an addition accidentally.
No, sir. You're exactly correct in regards to the slide that's on screen right now. That was a matter of a discussion item that we had, and it was recommended at that time to have staff go ahead and move forward than those recommended rates based upon the same schedule of development all the way throughout, incorporating then what those wage increases would be.
Okay.
And so that's why we see that we would be starting out at a $14.50, which would basically wrap our arms around that $2 increase that we're seeing now, and then advancing it as moving forward in future years in the same increments.
Get a quick definition. I don't remember discussing. I'm sorry. The semi-private and private lessons and how they relate to just general lessons.
Those semi-private are generally 2 or 3. They might be children of the same level, might be even out of the same household, could be siblings, but they are semi-private in the fact that it's not a one-on-one ratio of a swim lesson situation. Typical swim lessons are done in groups. 6 to 8. I don't think we go beyond 10 in regards to our ratios. Typically, when we do, there's another added instructor to that group, and that's just to ensure safety and adherence to lesson plan and skill development, and that student's advancement in the program. That's adding to that quality of service that we have.
So the semi-private fees and the private fees are in addition to the lesson fees, correct?
Those would not be part of the traditional swim lesson where you have a group situation. These become, and then those are done on half-hour increments, half-hour, 45-minute increments.
So you'd pay $14.50 for a half-hour lesson.
For a half an hour's worth of time of
a 4-week lesson. That's,
yep.
hour each.
or however
So
you
if
need
you
to
did it
schedule
4
them to do
times,
them.
you'd be paying
Paying a very
17 times
accelerated
4,
rate,
yeah.
right, right.
More.
That way you're in.
$65.
Yeah.
And 22
So
cents.
it's about advancement of one-on-one situations and having greater one-on-one opportunities.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then the school rental fee, that's all inclusive of the lifeguard fee and everything, correct?
The base, if you see under rentals, you will see a base rate.
Yep.
So that is the rental rate of the facility. Then in addition to that, that's where we wanted to get into the facility rental, understanding that it will take 3 guards. So you'll need to take that guard rental rate,
Okay.
add that to your base, and then if you want other amenities, you'll have to add accordingly for those guards, for those purposes.
Very good.
And then for my apologies, I'm muddling too. So what I was just referring to was your facility rental. I believe your question, and I apologize for missing this, was solely on the school rentals.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all inclusive for
That is
guards
all
and
inclusive guards, the whole kit and caboodle, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But it does limit your rental time. You have a maximum allowance of time there in doing that. Okay. Any other questions on aquatics? Okay. Moving on to open skate and rental situation. Again, we had the projection over the next 4 years. You'll see a very gradual increment in regards to those goals. Also, adult skate and open skate have been a service line that has been eliminated from our portfolio for several years. So you're showing those being struck. Okay.
Just wanted to point out the ideas that open skate is a lot less labor intensive for the or for the actual running of the facility versus lifeguards and a very labor intensive force.
Yes, sir.
The fee schedule is less gradual.
Very correct.
And less intense, I guess.
Yes. Same thing could be said in regards to our adjustments on the athletic fields. It doesn't, there's not as the number of laborers required in doing that. Then we're turning several pages, and I believe the last adjustments or recommendations will be found on page 9, and these literally are just additions of 2 particular rooms to our schedule that were not previously existing. So it's basically an update in our schedule. So you see we've been very respectful and focusing on Proposition 206 in regards to our fee schedule here, and those recommendations that you have asked of staff to review, as well as then putting together updates of our schedule, or so we're adding new materials or removing materials based upon service line. Any questions, concerns, other additional elements that you have? Okay.
I think the only thing to add to this is I think we've discussed it a little bit as our on our field trip that we had, is the idea of informing the public just of these fees increases, not only on day one of the actual going to swim lessons or swim season, if you would, but identifying what the cause is, what the root of the problem was, what the solution, why we came about it. I think that's the eye opener. Otherwise, they go into it blindly, and it appears as if they're not informed, and that's the only weird thing I would add to it.
Correct. And you're exactly right, and that's part of the importance of this discussion now, because we want to be ahead and be very informative. We're already receiving phone calls in regards to swim lessons and when that schedule is going to be made available and all of those things, because folks are planning their lives for the summer.
I had the same question for you too, so we'll get
Exactly. So those are the things that we're wanting to get ahead of, and much like, again, and I hearken back to my previous statement in regards to going to restaurants. Those signs are still up in restaurants today. The information or the transition happened back in January. Our prices have gone up. Some of them actually list a dollar amount. In other cases, they're adjusted on the menu across the board. We'll be wanting to do exactly the same thing and have this information available.
Well, I think to Brent's point too, to kudos for the article in the Tribune last week, but to really hammer home just that point, that the excellent point you made with the the town's subsidizing 60% of the pool, and we're just raising to keep our 40% from hitting all the taxpayers.
Right.
So, very good points to make.
And over the years, we have kept these fees very low just to accommodate the public. And, you know, I think everybody knows conditions change, and this is a big change with Prop 206. So our philosophy hasn't changed. We will continue to try and keep the fees as low as we can to serve the public, but I think it's important that we pass these fees as the schedule says.
Yes, sir. And you're exactly right. As a quick little example, and I apologize for keep injecting into this conversation, but if you look at Chino Valley or Prescott YMCA for their swim lessons as they exist as of now, or what they were given last year, Chino was at $45 for their lessons. Prescott was at $55. They either met or were less in service than what we were providing, and we're recommending that our rates move to just $40 an hour. So we're still cheaper than folks were last year in the movement of our fees, and probably providing better service.
Another great point to highlight.
And their fees will probably go up even more as they deal with Prop 206.
I highly concur with that statement. Yes, sir.
Very good.
I congratulate you for being ahead of the game with this, really. I was quite surprised when I read it, everything that you were doing. And I thought this was really a wonderful thing to get this under our belt and keep moving with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want a motion?
Any other questions or comments for Brian before I request a motion? Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept
I would make a motion to accept the facilities use fee schedule dated March 14th, 2017, and make a recommendation to the council that they accept these as written. We have spent a lot of time going over this, and I think this is our best understanding of where we should be. So I would make the motion to accept these and recommend the council take a look at them and accept them.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the North Central University Archway donation.
Yes, sir. As part of our park tour, we deviated quickly over from George Anderson Park, where Arbor Day is scheduled to take place, and knowing that this was a pending conversation coming forward, North Central University, who has been a donor and contributor to the town, and specifically the Parks and Recreation Department for the betterment of the community, is also looking at donating to the town its entryway arch sign located over East University Drive. Those that were on the tour were able to take a quick peek at that. This was also an item on your agenda during the work study for review and conversation. Pending, and correct me if I'm wrong, from that conversation, I think it was the Commission's viewpoint at that particular time that would be very attractive. You asked staff to have it as part of the agenda tonight for consideration and possible acceptance of this donation, with the understanding of two things. Number one, that the words of North Central University be removed, of course, in doing such, but also its placement for consideration. And so that is another item that is part of this action item for you all. And that would be because North Central has made again, contributions to the department, but more specifically the particular location that staff is recommending to you tonight. And that would be as a entryway feature at the trailhead at Glassford Hills Summit Trail. They made a donation for procurement development of that trail, and it would staff and I believe that it would be very fitting for it to be installed. And then the lettering indicating Summit Trail, and the beginning of that trailhead is a nice little monument there. We would definitely want to work to try to find additional contributors to the development of a very nice, supportive foundation to that archway and have it placed there. If there are other considerations, we're definitely open to those things, but we're asking for your statement or motion tonight of acceptance of that donation and the beginning processes of installing it there at the Summit Hill Trailhead.
I think it's a great opportunity to recognize donations and contributions from organizations around the community. It shows the cooperation within our community is vast. I also believe that it should be placed in that location with the rewording and relettering of that. I think that's a strong path to go.
Were we going to put a plaque recognizing their donation?
I think that would be very wise, yes, sir. Yes. And then whomever would also make contributions to developing each side of that archway.
I think that's a great idea to put that there. Really do, especially since we're getting so many people from out of the community
Yes.
to come and hike that. That'd be very attractive.
Yes.
This way, I think that'd be great.
You know, it would be a good idea, just thinking of the community itself, looking at the surrounding neighborhood, the houses immediately corresponding to the trail, maybe asking for their influence and their inputs.
Sure. And I think that you're talking in regards to the support elements and those kinds of things?
Yeah, just sheer design, and also, you know, would you guys, we're looking at doing this, is this a good idea?
Yes.
You know, that type of input, how big, how wide.
Right. Would the commission be interested in me taking this portion of things, if your motion goes through an acceptance of this, to perhaps engage the Art and Culture Commission for part of that design and process?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bringing it back for your reviews?
That up to you.
Okay. Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
To Brent's point, yeah, I think it'd be wise to engage the neighborhood.
I think that's a good
immediate
idea.
neighbors anyway that view the
Correct.
east side of
Yes.
the hill facing west.
Yes. Yeah, for the review shed, it's very important. So, yes,
Right. So,
be happy to do that.
well, with that, is there any other questions or comments regarding the North Central Archway donation? Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the North Central University Archway donation?
I'll make the motion.
That we accept the North NCU Archway donation as it is, and hopefully get it placed at the Summit Trailhead.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Passes. Okay. Any other items that are not on the agenda or unscheduled public appearances? Seeing none. Hearing none. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, April 11th, 6:30 p.m. right here in the auditorium. Please plan on attending or viewing. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.